On a bright morning, the fresh air fills the lungs with the scent of wet soil and the aroma of leaves that have just been watered with dew. My steps slowly step on the soil that is still wet with morning water, making a small rustling sound along the path that cuts through the vast expanse of rice fields. In the distance, the green hills look like a living natural painting, surrounded by a thin mist that slowly disappears as the sun rises. Every time my steps brought my body closer to the middle of the rice fields, the view became more amazing. The vast rice fields seemed to spread out endless green, with dense and neat rows of rice plants. The gentle breeze brings with it a cool feeling, touching the skin with a refreshing softness. The rice leaves swayed gently as if welcoming my arrival. The sound of gurgling water flowing in small ditches adds to the peaceful impression, while occasionally small birds fly by, creating a pleasant commotion.
Hi.
Along the path, the small footprints of farmers who set out to work early in the morning were already visible. Some were carrying hoes, some were carrying baskets to harvest crops. I smiled, admiring their tireless perseverance, even though the world had not yet fully awakened from sleep. Life in the rice fields, although simple, holds a tranquility that is hard to find amidst the hustle and bustle of the city.
Every now and then I would stop, looking up at the sky that was starting to reflect a bright blue color. In the midst of this silence, only the sounds of nature could be heard clearly, the wind rustling softly through the trees, the sound of crickets that could still be heard even though the sun was high, and the noisy sounds of birds greeting each other. I took a deep breath, enjoying every second that passed, as if time itself ran slower here. Walking deeper, I found a small river flowing clear in the middle of the rice fields. Along its banks, wild plants grew abundantly, creating a contrasting color with the green of the rice fields. I sat for a moment on the riverbank, watching the water flowing so calmly, like a momentary pause in thought. This is where I felt truly alive, as if the outside world with all its noise was forgotten. In the middle of the journey that increasingly follows the damp rice field trail, my eyes fell on a group of female farmers who were working. They moved in unison, their footsteps breaking the morning tranquility with a warm familiarity even though the heat of the sun was starting to be felt. There were about 5 women, with bodies covered in sweat, but their faces still smiled, full of joy. They wore simple clothes, some wearing headscarves to protect their faces from the sun that was slowly burning the earth.
With fluid movements, they lowered their bodies, lowering themselves to carefully plant the rice seedlings one by one. Each seed that was put into the soil seemed to bring hope for abundant results, despite the hard work and all the accumulated fatigue. Their voices chatted with each other. Sometimes laughter was heard breaking the silence. Some told each other about their children, about the funny experiences they had at home, and some occasionally teased each other, making the atmosphere even more boisterous and lively.
I couldn't help but smile at the sight. How could they work so cheerfully, as if there was no burden tying them down? Sweat dripped from their temples, but their laughter was louder than the tiredness itself. They were like one unit, a team that not only worked, but also enjoyed the moment. Amidst the melodious sounds of nature, their laughter seemed to complement the harmony, creating a deep peace. It was as if there was a strong bond between them, a bond of brotherhood that was not only created because of working together, but also because of the togetherness in every laugh and story that flowed. Every movement of theirs was so orderly, full of expertise that had been honed by time. I could clearly see how skilled they were, not a single movement was in vain. Full of meaning, the rice seedlings seemed to be a part of them, as if they were giving new life to the land they were working on. In the midst of their busyness, I felt something deeper, a simple, yet meaningful happiness. They worked, but they also celebrated every second together, unburdened by the difficulties that might come. As I stood at the edge of the rice field, watching them work with such passion and laughter, I felt as if the world had slowed down. There was something beautiful in that simplicity, a sincerity that is hard to find anywhere else. I watched them plant rice, not just with their hands, but with hearts full of love for the land that gives life. Behind their laughter, there was an incredible strength, a relentless will to persevere despite the challenges that came one after another. This view is so calming, it makes me want to stay here longer. There are no sharp gazes, no loud noises, only the sounds of nature that blend with their laughter. The wind blows softly, caressing their hair that is already wet with sweat. I don't want to take my eyes off them, from the way they move with such calmness, as if time is passing slower among them. There is something so peaceful here, something that makes me reluctant to leave this place. I sit slowly on the edge of the rice field, letting my eyes continue to follow their movements that are so skilled and agile. They move like flowing water, calm but sure, unhurried. Each other gives each other space, helps each other, and seems to know what to do without saying much. I feel more and more fascinated, more and more wanting to absorb everything here, the silence, togetherness, and wisdom hidden in their every movement. I stood there for a long time, transfixed by the calming view. In the middle of the vast rice fields, a group of women continued to work enthusiastically, planting rice seeds in a way that they have inherited from generation to generation. There is an extraordinary calm, even though their work is tireless and full of challenges. I felt as if I wanted to linger here, watching them in silence, enjoying the beauty they created with their skilled hands. Their boisterous laughter and jokes felt more and more at one with nature. Each of their laughs flowed so naturally, unbroken even though their footsteps continued to move quickly and surely. When their hands touched the ground, it was as if there was some kind of bond between their bodies and this earth, which had given them life for years. The rice seedlings they planted one by one added a stunning green color. I could see how the land that had previously looked empty and vast was slowly changing into a place full of life. It's not just the work they do, but there's a story in every seed they plant. There's history written in the soil they step on. Every touch of their hands seems to imply a sense of love for the land they work. I feel like I'm part of the journey, even if only as an observer, watching with awe. Amidst the hustle and bustle of the outside world, a place full of restlessness and speed, I feel like this is where I should spend more time, here, with those who work wholeheartedly, planting life with every step. I was fascinated by how they gave each other space. If someone was tired, others would come with a smile, helping to finish the rest. When someone was a little behind, others would pause for a moment, giving them time to catch up. There was no jealousy, no rush. They knew that working together meant taking care of each other, uniting their strengths in togetherness. There was almost no gap in their cooperation. If one person needed something, a tool that had fallen, or perhaps just a cup of water to refresh their throat, a hand would immediately reach out without being asked. In the hustle and bustle of movement, they maintained each other's warmth. The atmosphere was so warm, so intimate, like the morning air that was still soft and full of hope. In the middle of the vast expanse of green, they worked without feeling burdened, as if all tiredness could disappear just by sharing laughter and stories. It was truly a sight to see them working together like this. There was warmth in every look, in every smile they shared, and in every touch of a helping hand. Amidst the wisps of morning dew that clung to the leaves, amidst the seemingly simple activities, I felt as if time had stopped for a moment. The world around them seemed to stop as well, making room for the bond that was forged between them, a bond that was strong and invisible, yet felt so deep. I stood there, watching them, inspired by the peace they brought. In the midst of the hustle and bustle of life, I realized that sometimes happiness comes not from great achievements, but from togetherness, forged through hard work, laughter, and mutual support. In this vast rice field, under a sky that was slowly starting to brighten, they showed that life is truly about giving, supporting, and celebrating every little moment together. That morning, I felt connected to nature in a different way. There was no pressure, no anxiety. There was only peace. There was a simplicity that taught me to appreciate the little things that are often forgotten. It was such a pure moment, just me and nature, walking together without any burden.